Well, hello, my dear friends. Justyn Smith here with a Heart for Revival Ministries, moving chapter by chapter through God's Word. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for click and play. Today we are looking at an interesting title, Mr. Pouty Face, from 1 Kings 21. We are going to see a person in a lofty position, noted to be the position of the king, put on a pouty face because he didn't get the things that he wanted in this life, and he was going to continue in his pouting way until he got what he wanted in this life. And somebody's going to be a helper to him in this, noted to be his wife. So we're dealing with King Ahab. We're dealing with his wife, Jezebel. Let's let the rest of the story unfold before us today as we keep in mind that he's pouting to get his way, which is never any good. All right, so let's look at point number 1 together, understanding that the king pouted when he didn't get his way. The king pouted when he didn't get his way. Notice verse 1, it came to pass after these things that Naboth the Jezreelite had a vineyard which was in Jezreel, hard by the palace of Ahab the king of Samaria. We can already understand that because of how close it is to the palace of Ahab, he's going to want it for his own. And look how he offers this. Ahab spake unto Naboth, saying, Give me thy vineyard. So it starts with a command, that I may have it for a garden of herbs, because it is near unto my house. Then he goes on to say, And I will give it thee for a better vineyard than it, or if it seem good to thee, I will give thee the worth of it in money. So notice the 3 different things. He's commanding it. He's also saying, I'll give you a better one, or I'll buy it with money. And then we look at verse 3, And Naboth said unto Ahab, The Lord forbid it me, like the Lord's not going to let me do this, that I should give the inheritance of my fathers unto thee. I'm not going to do this. And Ahab came into the house heavy and displeased because of the word which Naboth the Jezreelite had spoken to him, for he had said, I will not give thee the inheritance of my fathers. And he laid him down upon his bed and turned away his face and would eat no bread. He is literally pitching a pouting fit. He has not gotten what he has wanted in this life, and he is pouting. How many times have you recognized others to do this? Now let's get a little more specific and say, how many times, as we examine ourselves, have we done this in our own way? Maybe it's like the king, very obvious. You fall upon your bed, you turn away your face from anybody and anything, and you're not even eating. I'm not hungry. I didn't get my way. This is Mr. Pouty Face. I'm introducing you to him so you may see how foolish this is in life, because ultimately it's not going to turn out good for Mr. Pouty Face, because there's a God in heaven who is the just judge over man's life. Number 2, comforting the one who doesn't get their way is seen in verse 5 through 6. But Jezebel, his wife, came to him and said, Why is thy spirit so sad that thou eatest no bread? And he said unto her, Because I spake unto Naboth the Jezreelite, and said unto him, Give me thy vineyard for money, or else, if it please thee, I will give thee another vineyard for it. And he answered, I will not give thee my vineyard. And of course, we know it's because of inheritance and it being in the family. And Jezebel, his wife, said unto him, Dost thou now govern the kingdom of Israel? Arise, eat bread, let thine heart be merry. I will give thee the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite. So the wife is comforting her husband, which, by the way, comforting the husband is a good thing. Likewise, comforting your wife, gentlemen, is a good thing, but not when it takes matters into your own hands and you sin to bring something forth to comfort the person that you are trying to comfort. And that's what this is all leading to, where there's Mr. Pouty Face and then the Mrs. who is ministering to the Pouty Face, not snapping him out of his silliness, but really answering his silliness with foolishness. It says in verse, or 3rd point, pursuing the authority to have whatever a person wants isn't always correct. Okay, notice this. She wrote letters in Ahab's name and sealed them with his seal and sent the letters unto the elders and to the nobles that were in his city dwelling with Naboth. And she wrote letters saying, proclaim a fast and set Naboth on high among the people, and set 2 men, sons of Belial, before him to bear witness against him, saying, thou didst blaspheme God and the king, and then carry him out and stone him that he may die. It's interesting here that Jezebel, taking matters into her own hands, is doing so based upon the word of another. She's falsifying another's word. She is making it seem like Ahab is writing this as the king. She is saying, you have authority to do whatever you want to, make something up and take his life. She makes it up. She sends the letter. It is performed. Notice this about this as well. Number 4, others joined in the cause of the king in the name of God, but it still wasn't right. Notice the verses. The men of the city, even the elders and the nobles who were the inhabitants of the city, did as Jezebel sent unto them, and as it was written in the letters which she had sent unto them. They proclaimed a fast, and set Naboth on high among the people. And there came in 2 men, children of Belial, and sat before him. And the men of Belial witnessed against him, even against Naboth, in the presence of the people, saying, Naboth did blaspheme God and the king. And they carried him forth out of the city, and stoned him with stones that he died. Then they sent to Jezebel, saying, Naboth is stoned and is dead. And they're doing it because she falsified a letter in the name of the king. They're doing it in the name of the king and in the name of God, but they are sinfully acting out something that is based in a man not getting his way. Mr. Pouty Face in his bedroom, turning his face from the world, not even eating, because he didn't get what he wanted in this life. And so now Jezebel comes into the scene. And Jezebel is really going to wreak havoc upon another person's heritage just to give her husband what he wants, just to satisfy the desires of Mr. Pouty Face. It is not right to act like that, whether we are parents trying to meet the needs of our children who are pouting. Stop it! Or whether it's like trying to meet the needs of our spouse because our spouse is pouting. That's foolish. Don't reward foolishness. That's what Jezebel did, and it's not going to help the kingdom. Notice what it says in our 5th point. Mr. Pouty Face got what he wanted, but he soon found out that he didn't like what he got. Notice verse 15. It came to pass when Jezebel heard that Naboth was stoned and was dead, that Jezebel said to Ahab, arise, take possession of the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite, which he refused to give thee for money, for Naboth is not alive, but he's dead. And it came to pass when Ahab heard that Naboth was dead, that he rose up. He stopped his pouty face. Okay, he got up. He went to go down to the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite to take possession of it, but something's about to change. He's about to meet Elijah. Uh-oh. It says in verse 17, the word of the Lord came to Elijah the Tishbite, saying, arise, go down to meet Ahab, king of Israel, which is in Samaria. Behold, he is in the vineyard of Naboth, whether he is gone down to possess it. And thou shalt speak unto him, saying, thus saith the Lord, hast thou killed and also taken possession? And thou shalt speak unto him, saying, thus saith the Lord, in the place where the dogs licked the blood of Naboth shall the dogs lick thy blood, even thine. This is why we know Ahab was in the wrong. This is why we know Jezebel was in the wrong. Obviously, we could already understand it, but God then signifies it by sending his prophet. Okay? Ahab got what he wanted through pouting, but he didn't like what he would eventually get. He didn't hold on to that possession very long, for his life was at stake because he chose to enter into this pouty phase of life and allow another to take matter into their own hands and kill, and therefore take life so that they could get or give whatever it was that they wanted. Then we see a sixth point. The spiritual leader was considered as Mr. Pouty Face's enemy. Okay, so Elijah comes onto the scene. He's obviously an enemy in my life because he's telling me the truth. That's how Mr. Pouty Face is handling it. Ahab said to Elijah, "Hast thou found me, O mine enemy?" And we say, "Be sure your sin will find you out." And he answered, "I have found thee, because thou hast sold thyself to work evil in the sight of the Lord." Okay, there's no other reason that I'm coming to you except because you've been found out to be evil in the sight of the Lord. Verse 21, "Behold, I will bring evil upon thee, and I will take away thy posterity. I will cut off from Ahab him that pisseth against the wall, and him that is shut up and left in Israel. And I will make thine house like the house of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, and like the house of Baasha the son of Ahijah, for the provocation wherewith thou hast provoked me to anger and made Israel to sin. And of Jezebel also spake the Lord, saying," okay, she's not getting out of this free and clear. She's obviously very much involved in this sin. "The dogs shall eat Jezebel by the wall of Jezreel. Him that dieth of Ahab in the city of dogs shall eat, and him that dieth in the field shall the fowls of the air eat." And this is all based upon the prophecy of the word of the Lord concerning the ones who would enter into sin. We've looked at some of these verses already. And so as we consider what has taken place right here, the spiritual leader in Ahab's life was considered to be his enemy. And we take this point and say, "Lord, help me. I never want to put myself in a position where the spiritual leaders of my life are the enemies of my life. I want to be somebody who honors you and honors those in authority in the first place, so I don't end up reaping such repercussions because of my choice in sin." Number 7, the horrible life examples of Ahab and Jezebel. "There was none like unto Ahab, which did sell himself to work wickedness in the sight of the Lord, whom Jezebel his wife stirred up." Notice the camaraderie in sin. Notice the influence. Notice how Jezebel arose, raised up, stirred up some things that would then yield the fruits of wickedness in their lives. Then it says in verse 26, this is the testimony. This is how he went down in history. "He did very abominably in following idols, according to all things, as did the Amorites, whom the Lord cast out before Israel." So we're talking about how Ahab and Jezebel are known in history. I mean, to name your child either of those names? Come on now. You don't want that type of pattern for them, not just because you name them, but just because of who their name represents. You must understand these were wicked, sinful people before God, and they've gone down notably in history in the wrong way, so that you and I would say, I don't want to be like that. I want to honor God. I want to live for Him. Notice number 8, even Ahab received a space of mercy for repenting of his evil deeds. So he hears the word of the prophet. He even calls the prophet his enemy, but then notice how he responds in verse 27. "And it came to pass, when Ahab heard those words, the words of the prophet, that he rent his clothes and put sackcloth upon his flesh and fasted and lay in sackcloth and went softly. And the word of the Lord came to Elijah the Tishbite, saying, Seest thou how Ahab humbleth himself before me? Because he humbleth himself before me, I will not bring evil in his days, but in his son's days will I bring the evil upon his house." So God is going to come back with a message from that same messenger and speak to the humility of Ahab. I've messed up, and he knew it. Okay, Mr. Pouty Face, as we study him here in 1 Kings 21, understood the weightiness of the situation he placed himself and his nation in, and he sought forgiveness from God. My dear friends, what a challenge this is to us today, not just to make sure that we don't pout when we don't get our way, but to make sure that we are a people who humble ourselves before the Lord, recognizing our sinful decisions, confessing, and turning back to Him. Thank you, my dear friends, for listening so well. Thank you for click and play today. I pray that we've been challenged by this message and that we will ultimately be changed because of it. God bless you. Have a great day.